Hi, this is Michael Adams for CEORoaster.com and Stock Telegraph. And actually, a couple of weeks ago, I read this book the first time. It's called, in German language, it's called Mein Elektriker fährt einen Porsche. And I think the English title, and you can see it on the slides, the English title is My Electrician Drives a Porsche. And it's written by Gianni Kovacevic, who I know for probably 10 years. Yeah, and he's an expert, worldwide expert on copper, but also on renewable energy and the emerging markets. And yeah, it's my pleasure to have him here to talk about Dr. Copper in special, yeah, but also about his baby, which is CopperBank Resources Corp. It's a publicly traded company trading on the Canadian Stock Exchange as CBK and also on the Frankfurt market. And the WKN number is A12EAX, and the German symbol is 9CP. So first of all, thanks, Gianni, for taking the time to talk to me out of your busy day. And yeah, my first question is, I was referencing the book. So why is your electrician driving a Porsche and not a Tesla?
Yeah, great question. Well, I wrote the book as a hobby, and we self-published this thing, and it caught on. A lot of people read it, got a lot of positive feedback, and I ended up getting a publishing deal. Had a group out of Texas, and they gave me the hardcover version, and it was actually featured in all the airports across the United States. And effectively, the title is Porsche because it's about a young electrician who takes his family doctor, and as we know, family doctors are sometimes known as not being the greatest investors, and they go on this journey of enlightenment. And the doctor goes out of his mind when this young electrician drives a Porsche. How is this possible? You can't correlate the two because you should be working somewhere. But in reality, the electrician, he started investing in macro themes, emerging markets, commodities, and he was able to prosper. So the story is exactly this experience, but it has nothing to do with fast cars. It has everything to do with the electricity, understanding where the future of energy is going. And of course, when you talk about electricity, you're talking about copper. The future of energy is going to go through a copper cable. And then we do talk about Tesla because the doctor has an awakening. He adopts the Tesla way of life. He's the one that ends up buying an electric car and, with pivoting his house and going into the future. The future truly is now.
Okay, no, that's cool. And you took a trip through the United States and part of Canada, driving a Tesla, by the way, right? To first, of course, promote your book, but second, of course, to get the word out, on copper and the renewable energy. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. I understand this stuff. I followed energy kind of like for 20 years, as we say in America, like a Harlequin romance novel. I'm very, very in tune with the pivot. And to celebrate the book and to do a more interesting book tour, I figured, why not buy an electric car? So we bought a Tesla. And I figured I could go to more places, talk to more people, and have a little bit more interest level. And so I took this Tesla and I drove, you can see here in the picture, I went from Boston to Florida, all the way to California, back up to Vancouver. I drove 13,000 kilometers to talk about the future of energy, using this as my so-called prop. And I was meeting with predominantly skeptic people that did not believe wind energy, solar power, electric cars, they work. And if I drove across America, I can tell you the stuff absolutely, without question, is the future, and people are going to see this adopted in all over the place, and all the major automotive manufacturers are now going to be making technologically advanced vehicles. And of course, we've all seen what's happening in the entire space, renewable energy, wind, solar, and how that's going to go forward. And of course, it's all to do with electricity and not with oil.
Right, and the saying gold is money, right? So can we say copper is energy?
Yeah, we can. You can see that. I believe that oil obviously is energy. Energy without the use of fossil fuels, as you say in German, without fossile Brennstoffe, it means electricity every time. And when you start talking about this kind of electricity, it requires a magnitude more copper for each initiative. Does not matter what we're talking about. So I do believe that oil and copper are going to decouple, the price that is. If you look at, I got a graph here for you, when you see the over a 4-year access. So to make it very clear for people, I think they should be investing in copper because copper is going to have far more demand, irrespective of what happens in oil markets, gold markets, whatever. It will be an outlier commodity. And if you look at this picture here, maybe you have a few questions about it, but this basically is the value of all these commodities that your people invest in, be it gold, be it coal, zinc, whatever you see. And obviously oil, by far, by a power of magnitude, is the largest commodity market. So do you not want to invest in the future? You probably want to invest in the things that are going to have bigger value, more customers, and stay away from the things that are going to be shrinking and losing customer base.
No, I totally agree. And as you indicated briefly, yeah, you can speak German. We just decided to tape this video interview in English. But at the end of the video interview, there will be, by Gianni, there will be a kind of summary in German language. Having said that, you know that if people are thinking about the green energy revolution concerning transportation or cars, everybody's talking about lithium. And the new flavor of the month is cobalt. Yeah, but in my understanding, copper plays a very important part too.
Yeah, it is. Cobalt is the theme of the day, and these are basically the ingredients, or the, as Elon Musk would say, the seasoning within the battery. But the bulk of the battery is nickel, it's graphite, it's copper. Yes, lithium is important. Yes, cobalt's important. And so if you're a serious investor and you want to look at this theme going forward, what we're talking about is the battery. We're talking about the battery. But what's energy? We have to talk about, how do you make energy, the electricity? This is copper, wind, solar, nuclear, hydro. How do you transfer energy from point A to point B? Now, if it's going to be fossile Brennstoffe, fossil fuels, it's a pipeline, it's a railroad, it's a ship, or it's an electrical cable. It goes from A to B. In the utility, the way you and I as consumers, the way we use this energy is with typically a motor. Either it's an internal combustion engine or electrical motor, and then storage. This is where the battery comes in, and this is where lithium, cobalt, and all these other components are used. I would think you want to take a portfolio approach. You want to invest with people that have done it before, that have a specialty in that commodity, and so you narrow it down very quickly to very few groups that you should be following, and once your comfort level's there, investing in. But who wins the marathon, Michael? Copper. It's pervasive in every single component, the way you create, transfer, and utilize energy. And it's also going to be a little bit less volatile, I think, because there's very few companies of quality, and we'll get into that later. How do you invest in copper? Yep. But if people want to look at it, because this space in general, it is speculative, it is risky, you want to mitigate those risks. Copper wins the marathon.
Right, and you know, besides silver and gold and platinum, which people can also invest into the physical metal, right? It's pretty tough to invest into physical copper. Yeah, this is a 1 kilogram copper bar, and the price is probably something like, I don't know, what's the price, like $5 or so? A little bit less, right? So, but you can't put your money into a lot of physical copper just to participate in the upcoming trend, because it's just, you will need a huge storehouse, yeah, to put in all the copper, right?
Yeah, well, you're right. I think there's different ways to invest in copper. Here's a graph by McKinsey and Company, and these are bean counters. These are accountants and business people. They did a thorough analysis of the future of commodities, and what you're looking at here is a graph of the big five: crude oil, thermal coal, natural gas, iron ore, and copper. Guess what? Does not matter how the pivot takes place. It will happen through an electrical cable, and it takes more copper. What is the only commodity that these people have come up with that's going to have 30, 40, 50% more demand growth in the next 20 years? Take a look at the brown line. Please tell me what commodity that is.
Copper.
Copper. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
that was
so we're very bullish on that. But then if you look at the demand side, where does copper come from? Copper predominantly comes from very large, very old, very tired mines in places like Chile, places like the United States. We invested a lot of money in the exploration of this stuff. But around $150 billion was put into drilling and what have you in the past 15 years. We've been through a few cycles. You lived them. You and I know each other 10 years.
Yeah.
They didn't find very much, Michael. So if you look at the red line on this graph, if we don't reinvest in the copper production space, the supply falls off a cliff. So how do you reconcile that? Look at McKinsey's forecast. It's the only commodity that has new customers. We need more copper. That's the first question. Yes or no? Yes. Well, where's it going to come from? Take a look. It's the only one way that's going to make this possible. Those copper deposits that have already been discovered need to become economic. And the only way that's possible, the copper price has to go higher. So this is why I believe copper and oil decouple, because oil may be a boring investment for the coming years. The price won't be volatile, or it might be volatile. But if copper used to follow oil up and down, it has to decouple, because the only way that red line is going to go higher is a higher copper price. And so the next question is, who's going to finance it? Look at this picture.
Yeah, right. And then let me ask you a question. So in the zinc market, I know, and I've talked to a couple of experts, that a lot of the big zinc mines have shut down or are about to shut down. So is that the same situation in copper? So the demand, because of what you described, is going to rise, but the supply will be hurt by mines that are shutting down.
Yeah, copper is not as dangerous as zinc right now, but the zinc market's been like this for a long time. You don't talk about Century and Brunswick and these mines shutting down, and there's going to be a big supply disruption, and it market always seems to balance itself. I think zinc's also going to participate in really strong market in the coming years. So I think zinc is a place that people should at least focus and follow and understand what's taking place. Copper's a little bit different. Copper predominantly is a balanced market. Last year, supply and demand was around 23 million tons. And it comes from what they call primary copper supply, that comes from mines, and secondary copper supply, that's recycled copper. What's going to take place in the copper market? There's various things that could make the price go higher, but I believe it will come when a sequence of things happen at the same time. It is balanced, it will become imbalanced, and then what happens, Michael, if there's an act of God, a disaster at one of the existing copper mine? Your market is imbalanced immediately. All these people that have been buying copper over the past couple of 3-4 years, what they say in English, hand to mouth. They don't need to have long supply because the price is cheap. It's not really going higher. So they do this hand to mouth buying. But all of a sudden, when the market becomes imbalanced, it becomes a little bit of a panic market. And once that sets off, it's going to be driven by overwhelming demand growth, and the supply simply will not be there to sedate that demand.
Okay, get it. Yeah, maybe just go to the next slide. And I think you have a couple of slides where we're talking about the copper metrics. Yeah, and also I would like to get some more information about CopperBank as one of the ways for the investor to participate in the upcoming price increase. So yeah, but let's talk about Lumina Copper.
Yeah, so I've followed junior mining stocks for 20 years now. And the one thing I can guarantee you, it's extremely volatile. Anyone that's participated in this knows, has really high highs and really low lows. This is unlike any other business. If you tell people that the valuation can go from $5 a share to 10 cents a share of a company, they won't believe it. But that's the kind of stupidity that happens in junior mining. Right. So if you're an investor, which is what I am, you want to basically embrace the volatility. When the market collapses, you want to be a buyer. That's what we were. In the market collapsed in the past 2 and 3 years, we bought copper projects. So if you look at the example of Lumina Copper, this was a group here in Vancouver led by Ross Beatty. He did exactly that. When the copper price was low in 2001, 2, and 3, he was a buyer. And then you can see as the market recovered, he enhanced his projects and he sold them one by one by one. It's real estate, as you say in German, Immobilien. That's how I look at this investment. I'm buying real estate that's got a copper endowment on it. Buy low, sell higher. If you invested in Ross Beatty's Lumina Copper and you invested $1 on the first day, and with all your dividends and all the warrants, $80 return, 80 to 1 return. So that's the kind of experience you can see. So what we did at CopperBank was exactly that. We wanted to create a company that was run by shareholders for shareholders. We did not want to have a lot of dilution. We wanted to buy those projects that were worth tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars at the high of the last cycle and buy them in the low, which is exactly what we did in the past 2.5, 3 years. So here we are. We are a group of 10 technical people, geologists and engineers. We have over 350 years of a collective experience. And here's an interesting statistic for your viewers. No one draws a salary. They're all aligned with the shareholder. So there's no burn rate. They're all doing something else. We've looked at our projects over the last couple of years, and now we are ready to execute on what Lumina Copper did. Remember when they started to enhance the value in a rising copper price environment? That's exactly where we are today. We are looking to no longer be CopperBank, the acquire and hold company. We are now the CopperBank, let's develop our projects and create exciting news for our shareholders company. So you can see our chart where we traded sideways at about 8, 9, 10 cents. And now we're about 12, 13 cents Canadian. And we are going to deliver news on our various projects week after week for the rest of the year 2017.
Right. And as you mentioned, not only don't you guys draw a salary, yeah, you're buying your own stock, right? So I checked the insider filings, and there's a lot of buying from management in the market, right? So which is always a good sign for the investor, because as you said, yeah, you guys are in the same boat as the average investor, right? For lack of a better term. So
no, you're exactly right. This company was created for ourselves. We are shareholders. We say it's management by owner-operators. So I'm going to get paid with a share price appreciation. That's my motivation. So I'm not interested in having raising a lot of money and having a high market cap, all this kind of thing. It's all on the per share value. How do I enhance what we own as shareholders? It's true. We have had intensive insider buying since the company was founded. In 2015, we had the most insider buying of any listed company in Canada. 2016, the most insider buying of any company listed in Canada. And I don't know if I have my insider filings here. I don't. And then so far in 2017, we have the most insider buying of any listed company in Canada. I like to invest in copper. I will invest in a good idea or a good exploration team. The problem is, in the past 2-3 years, it made no sense to do drilling. Why drill and pay $1 on the dollar for very expensive, onerous research programs when we in CopperBank owned 3 projects that have had tens of millions of dollars spent on them, and I could buy that drilling for pennies on the dollar? That's why I believe it's still a very compelling value. And I don't know when this interview is going to go out to your followers, but yesterday on June 12th, yet again, I bought 160,000 shares at 14 cents. So after we closed our financing, and I could have easily put more money in the company at 8 cents. That's not what we do. We issued no warrants. We don't want to cap the future value of our company. It was oversubscribed. We paid no fees. We truly have the who's who of copper investor in the company, and I continue to support my company because I believe at this share price, it's still a compelling short, medium, and long-term value proposition as an investor.
Yeah, and I really think that's the right way, and this is how a lot of the Canadian companies should do it. And it's very uncommon, right? Yeah, to have these, like, not raising money every couple of months and not giving yourself a lot of warrants and options. And so the spiel, right? What a lot of
you have to be aligned.
Right. So having said that, in retrospective, I think your strategy to not spend money on drilling in the last 2 years was right, because you didn't waste the money, because at that bad market, you would not have gotten, with any drill results, you would not have gotten any appreciation in the share price. So in retrospective, that was all good. But moving forward, yeah, the market is way better now in 2017. And you already announced that some of the cash that you recently raised is going to go into a drill program on one of the
precisely. Right? Precisely. In fact, I would say almost all the money we raised. Okay. Because we have another statistic that shareholders would like, we have the lowest burn rate of any listed company in Canada. We have really no expenses because, just to reiterate, to underline, we treat this strategy like a real estate strategy. We bought projects. They did not require any work to be done on them, so it was a hold. We raised $1.4 million. It's the first, serious capital raise we've done since our IPO, which was done in November of 2014. And so almost all that money is going to go in the ground so we can create 3 catalysts for the company. I liken it as 3 boxes of value. So if you want to share in CopperBank, I need to maximize that money as we invest it in the ground so that for each dollar we spend, we get a magnitude more value. In this case, it's copper pounds in the ground. That's what we're trying to delineate, more copper in our existing resources and reserves on our existing projects. So if you look at boxes 1, 2, and 3, we have a project on private property in Nevada. We've looked at it from an engineering and geological perspective, and we are now ready to do a very modest, which should be a very impactful work program at that project. But the one we start on the next 30 days is box number 2, Pyramid. We're going to do some very important holes, and I encourage people to go listen to my voiceover presentation on the website, and I put you right into exactly where we're going to drill. You can see the cross-section, what would the current result, and what we looked at to discover with this next phase of drilling. And then we also look at doing more mapping and more getting drill targets ready at our 3rd project, San Diego Bay. So I think for that little bit of dilution, we should see a power of magnitude of value creation of course, for ourselves and everyone involved in the company.
Okay. No, sounds like a plan to me. And yeah, that was actually the next thing on my notes. Yeah, was give us a comparison to other peer group companies.
Yeah. First, I'll show you this chart here, and this is important because I've been involved with 9 copper companies, Michael. 8 of them have been sold as an investor, and I've been coming to conferences for 15 years. I'm frequently the keynote speaker at all the conferences I go to. I always come to the Edelmetall Messe in Munich, and I just deliver results. But my personal experience, having been an investor in these 9 companies, 8 that were sold, what I'm showing you here is the value per pound that those projects were sold for. Now, this is a metric, one of many metrics you can use, but right, for each established pound of copper that a company has, in the past cycles, they were sold between 5 and 8 cents per pound in the ground. And if it was really in the development chain, you see sometimes as high as 25 cents. But what we're looking at, being a little bit more conservative, is we think the values between 5 and 8 cents a pound for high quality copper projects. So where's our peer group? Our peer group is currently trading between 2 and 5 cents a pound. We're not on this list. Now, my goal is to put our companies on the radar of the analysts and other investors. We do belong, both of our projects. Remember, we've got 3 projects. Right. 2 have established resources, and they have a metric. So by doing more work on them, we put it on the radar, and then I believe we should re-rate and value within our peer group. We're trading at less than 1 penny a pound in the ground. But less than 1 penny. So just to become part of the peer group, we should revalue 3 or 4x. But don't forget, we're starting drilling in the next 30 days. We are looking, our goal is to actually increase the size of the amount of copper pounds, established pounds that we have in the ground at our pyramid project. So not only should we, or could we re-rate to the sister, like our peer group, we also have the opportunity of adding more pounds to get a re-rating and a re-rating. So I believe our current valuation, which if we look at the, where's our chart again? You can see our chart here. Our current market cap is around $23, $24 million for the 3 projects. Yep. I believe that should be more reflective to the peer group, which you can see here, between 2 and 5 cents. And people can scrutinize that and go and look at the benefits. I think our pyramid project is one of the best situated copper projects in the world. It's on private property. It's the closest copper porphyry in the Western hemisphere to the Asian smelters. So it has a lot of things going for it. And most importantly, if you look at that presentation, where we drill starting in the next 30 days is areas of high-grade copper. we're looking to delineate those areas that already showed results as per the presentation between 0.7 and 1% copper with equivalence. So it's a very exciting time, and I encourage people to follow the news very carefully.
No, definitely. And do you have any guidance on when the investor can expect a press release on the results? Kind of
we start drilling. Yeah, we start drilling in the next 30 days, and then news should start coming out 6 weeks after that. But then we're going to continue to do other initiatives on the project that are more time-consuming rather than cost-consuming. And then after that's completed, we look to enhance the value at our Nevada project. And I'll tell people why we're drilling like this. In Alaska, to be most cost-effective, the best time to drill is July and August. So that's where we're going to do that first. In Nevada, we really can drill all year long. So once the drilling is done in Alaska, once we get results to continue news flow for our shareholders, then we'll start doing a work program in Nevada in the fall. So we're going to continue to deliver and deliver and deliver and drive value for everyone involved in CopperBank.
Okay. No, I really think that's a good strategy. But you mentioned this other copper company, which was called Lumina, right? And yep. they did the individuals the individual projects have been spin out, right, for the shareholders. Yep. So is that a strategy which you would also consider?
Yeah, we put out a press release in October of 2016 that says we're looking to enhance the value of our portfolio. So it would not be unreasonable to think that, just like Lumina did, if we take these various projects and hypothetically, if we put them into their own specific company, you have to look at what's the value there. I think it makes a lot of sense to isolate those projects so people can focus specifically on that type of deposit. And if we do this correctly, I think there's an opportunity for some meaningful value appreciation, because the market would then really appreciate what each project represents for the company.
I agree. Most of the time, if you spin out a project, or let's assume you would spin out all three projects and then add the market caps of the three companies, it will be way higher than the actual CopperBank market cap right now.
That frequently happens, exactly.
No,
so what would it take in Nevada, just to give you rough metrics, that's a lower grade copper oxide project. So we have to look at the engineering now on the higher grade core. So we're going to do a few holes there to test metallurgy and look at the high grade core and see how much tonnage we have at sort of 0.5, 0.6% copper. And that does two things. One, it shows us what's the economics of this project in a low copper price environment. Okay. But two, and I believe the copper price will go higher, in a higher copper price environment, what's the value of the project? It would take over $40 million to duplicate all the work that's been completed at Contact in Nevada. I mean, think of the dilution. We never have to suffer. It's already occurred. So for me to enhance this project, this is a $750,000 budget as per our estimates, and answers a lot of questions for us. So the box number one has a lot of value, and then of course Pyramid. When you look at our current resource, which is we have 1.3 billion pounds of copper, and now we're going to be drilling in the next 30 days into really twice the grade of the current resource, and an extension and deeper than the current resource. Boy, you add pounds pretty quickly once you start delineating higher grade, higher tonnage. And so if you do a quick calculation on that per pound metric, I can't do it for people, but they have to do the math themselves. I mean, all of a sudden you start looking at, well, gee, maybe these guys are worth 3 or 4 cents a pound in the ground. Why are they trading at 1/2 of 1 penny? And so how am I going to get hurt here? If you look to the downside, we've already demonstrated the most insider buying of any listed company in Canada. So we've already shown that if the price is at a certain level, we'll gladly buy our own shares, gladly.
Okay. No, I think, again, I like the story. And let's take a look. Can you see what I'm holding into the camera?
A crystal ball.
Right, so let's take a look into the crystal ball, and let's assume you already did the spin out of of Contact. So are you going to replace it? Are you going to buy new projects? And if so, will you focus on North America, or are you looking in different areas too?
If we can buy a high quality copper project that's, as we say, trading at all-time lows, And then within our group, with our group of 10 technical people in our relationships to the decision makers in the copper world, we would look at that. We have 3 metrics here at CopperBank, Michael. First one, any project, we have to be able to send our children to go work there. If it's too exotic, we're not interested, okay? Number 2, the project would have to have had a lot of money spent on it already, because we're scientists, we're geologists, engineers. We want to understand, what does the market not like about that project? We need to go and look at the data. If there's very little data, meaning if a lot of money has not already been spent there, it's hard for us to guess. So those projects had to have a big investment by other people in the past. And number 3, as an investor, can I create liquidity? Do I know someone that would, in theory, in a better copper environment, would they buy that project from me? So if they have all 3 of these criteria, yes. Once, and if we spin out a contact or pyramid, and we had liquidity and resources, which that's the whole idea, we would create liquidity for our shareholders by vis-a-vis a share, but CopperBank would also keep a share position. That's what we liquidate into cash, so we have no dilution. So that's how we do this. And so yes, we would look at that. And few things we don't like at CopperBank, we detest warrants, and we hate dilution. If I issue a share, I need to be getting a lot in return. So yes, we did a 15% dilution, but I believe we're going to get a power of magnitude in return for those invested dollars. That money is not going into fancy wine and travel around the world. That money goes directly into the ground, so we, as the biggest shareholders, get a per share value. People will ask me, well, how do you travel around the world? How do you do all this? Well, first of all, I am an investor. I have other investments. But because I've written a book, because I'm a thought leader, because I'm a keynote speaker, they pay me to come and do the keynote. They pay my travel. I get the undivided attention of everyone at the conference. CopperBank doesn't pay 1 penny. Nobody else has this advantage. So even though I've branded the company and people know what we've done, I've sold 18,000 books, just now we're starting to get the credibility. So between now and Munich, when I'm there in November, and hopefully you have a lot of people in Germany that will watch this interview, I will surely be there. I will work the floor very hard. I'm there for your questions, and we'll be there year after year to deliver results. This is our strategy, and I want people to know that the final liquidity, I'll be the one that I'll be turning the lights off on the way out, which hopefully will be many happy endings, just like the Lumina Copper story. We're very committed to CopperBank, and it's the only company I'm working with, the only company I'm involved with. If you ask me about the space, I'm not a used car salesman that offers you 7 or 8 different opportunities. My life exists to talk about energy, so I can show people that copper's the future, and so if they ask me, we can talk about CopperBank.
Okay, perfect. And that's a great preparation. If you want to talk to Gianni on the Edelmetallmesse, I urge you, buy this book. I think it's available probably on Amazon, I guess. Yeah, buy this book.
It's in most booksellers in Germany too.
Okay, so it's available everywhere, and I trust that it's that you can also find your English language copy if you're in North America or English speaker. Yeah, actually, that's almost everything I have to ask you. But you're coming over to Germany in the next couple of days to do a presentation.
Yeah, I'll be in Zurich on June 21st at the Swiss Mining Institute. And on the 22nd of June, I'll be in Geneva to give a talk on energy. I'm doing the lunch keynote at that conference. Then I'll be on vacation. I'm going to Croatia, going to Sardinia, Saint-Tropez, and then I'll be back in Munich. I'm in Munich on July 17th and 18th. I'm doing the keynote for the Cable and Wire Manufacturers Association for their annual meeting. I'll be there on July 18th. So I'm in the Munich area for a couple of days, and if people would like to get together and talk about copper, my book, and CopperBank, and don't forget, we'll be in the middle of our drilling program, a lot of exciting results. I would love to get together with an investor group, and we can do it in German. So I love speaking German. You know, I speak it like an immigrant, but I do speak it fluently.
And you will have a chance to practice your German even more. I know it's very good, but let's end the English language part. So for all the English language viewers, thank you very much for watching. Gianni, final words in English language?
Philosophy. I think everyone should take a look at my book. I'm more than happy to give people complimentary copies if I see them, but for now, because it talks about so many different themes. It talks about China, it talks about energy, emerging markets, the pivot in energy. going to conferences, reading newsletter writers, investing in yourself. You have to be knowledgeable. You have to go and pound the pavement and invest and learn to get fundamental, information and a knowledge base. Then you want to surround yourself with really smart people. You can do this because in a virtual world, you can go to YouTube and you can hear very important people, and you can get the opinion of 10 or 15 thought leaders, and then you come up with your own opinion. And then eventually you want to follow your investments. And if you don't put capital at risk, you can never attain true wealth. If you want to get 2 or 3% in the bank, you're never gonna have independent wealth. And at the same time, if you're putting capital at risk, you want to do it in a mitigated way. You never put grandma's pension money, you never put everything in one basket, but you want to take a sliver of your investment income and follow the investments of the future. And of course, I recommend Copper is something everyone should follow. And hopefully you use CopperBank as one of your metrics for the future.
Great. Thank you very much for this English part. And I hope to see you soon, and maybe we do another video update when the drill results are coming in. Thank you very much, Gianni.